Does it feel like a stall means your GLP-1 isn't working? Or maybe side effects are really crushing you and you're wondering if this is the end of your journey with the GLP-1 medication? In this Q&A, I'm answering questions that you, my viewers, have asked me about stalls, side effects, and more. So you can stop second-guessing yourself and feel confident in your next steps on your GLP-1 journey after menopause. I'm 31 weeks into my own GLP-1 weight loss journey, and I'm down over 22 pounds. Slow, yes, but steady. Okay, let's do this Q&A. If you're new here, hi, I'm Bobby. I'm a therapist and an artist, and I'm sharing my GLP-1 weight loss journey here on YouTube. I'm not a medical doctor, and I'm not your therapist. I'm just sharing my experience here, and you should always talk to your own healthcare providers when you're making decisions about your own healthcare. Okay, let's do my weigh-in. It's my first weigh-in in 3 weeks because I've been on vacation. 3 weeks ago, I weighed in at, oh my God, I need to get organized. I weighed in at 188.5 3 weeks ago. This morning, I weighed in at 187.3. So I lost 1.2 pounds on my vacation. Hooray! Is that right? Yeah. To catch you up, I started out at 210.1 pounds about 7 months ago. So I'm down a total of 22.8 pounds. So I'm just gonna read questions that you, my viewers, my subscribers have asked me. And I so appreciate that you did reach out when I asked you to. There's a link to like a 2-question Google form. I'll put it in the pinned comment in the description here because you can still ask me questions that I'll answer in future videos. But the ones that I've gotten so far, I'm going to answer as many of them as I can today without going on too long. And I didn't ask for names, so these are all just anonymous by design. Okay, the first question is, I'm a slow loser. I hear you. Similar to your pace. Yeah. But recently my weight loss has stopped for 3 weeks. Okay. I totally relate to this. It's really frustrating when you're doing all the things and you're not losing weight. Technically, a true weight loss stall or plateau is defined as no change in weight or measurements for 4 to 6 weeks. So if you haven't lost any weight on the scale in 3 weeks, check your measurements if you're taking them. And I'm someone who doesn't take my measurements, and I've just got some weird mental block where I just can't bring myself to track my measurements. But I can tell when my clothes are fitting differently. So I just kind of use that as a gross measurement of my body getting smaller. So if your body is changing, but the scale's not changing, that is really great progress. It means that you're losing fat. And we call this a weight loss journey, but really it's a fat loss journey. We don't want to lose lean muscle mass. We want to lose the excess fat on our body. So if the scale isn't moving, but you're noticing that you're getting smaller, that is not a plateau. If you're neither changing in size nor weight for 4 to 6 weeks, that's a stall. I had a period of 4 weeks where I didn't lose any weight, but I definitely noticed my clothes were fitting differently. At the time, I called it a stall, but I see now that it wasn't, that my body was changing in composition. So why do these things happen? Why do we stall out or not lose weight for a few weeks? There are a lot of different reasons. Normal fluctuations happen from retaining water, how much salt you've eaten, how you're sleeping, how you're exercising. Stored carbs or shifts in your stored glycogen levels can increase the scale a lot by like 3 to 5 pounds, because for every gram of glycogen stored in your body, it has to store 3 grams of water. So there are all kinds of fluctuations that could be going on. Also, sometimes the body just pauses after initial weight loss to sort of recalibrate. And that's normal. In fact, it's really common if you've just changed how you're exercising or changed your medication dose or changed how you're eating. The body's just sort of wanting equilibrium, and being in a calorie deficit and losing weight is not equilibrium for the body. So it's actually kind of trying to fight it because it doesn't want to starve to death. So the body's gonna be really cautious about releasing weight, especially the less weight you have to lose. If you do find yourself in a true stall, like if it's been 4 or more weeks with no changes in weight or measurements, then it might be time to reassess and see if you want to change, your eating, your exercise, look at your sleep, look at your meds with your doctor, and see if there's something that could be adjusted that could get the weight loss going again. 3 weeks without losing weight can feel so discouraging. But remember, it's not yet a true stall, and just keep tracking your trends. Wait 4 to 6 weeks before you make any big changes, and whatever you do, just don't quit. Don't give up. If you're finding this video helpful, please take a second to hit the like button. It really helps my channel, and it helps other viewers find content like this on YouTube who want to know about this kind of stuff. Thanks. Okay, next question. How do I decide on a dose or a drug? I'm currently on semaglutide with manageable side effects at 1 milligram. My weight loss is stalled. I'm hesitant to go up and increase my side effects. I considered changing to Tirzepatide, but I think having nausea would be worse than having constipation. Okay, that second part real quick. It sounds like you might be concluding that because I had constipation with semaglutide and nausea with Tirzepatide, that you'll also experience that. And that's not necessarily the case at all. People respond differently to these medications. So when you're figuring out your medication, don't presume that switching from semaglutide to Tirzepatide will mean not dealing with constipation and dealing with nausea. If your side effects are manageable on semaglutide, that's awesome. That's where I got to on semaglutide, and I would have stayed on it. I didn't change because of the side effects or the results. Basically, I changed because I wanted really reliable access, and I was scared that compounded would go away, so I just changed to branded. And I'm very fortunate that I could afford to do that because it's expensive as It's just kind of difficult to predict how we'll respond when we change dose or change medication. So you have to just make the best decision based on the information that you have and talking to your doctor. Should you go up on semaglutide? Should you switch to Tirzepatide? I mean, either one of those could be really legitimate decisions for you or not. I mean, talk to your doctor, but know that you can't know exactly what will happen. You'll figure it out, whatever happens, but you can't predict exactly what will happen. If you're on a medication right now, your side effects are manageable, and the stall is, just a few weeks. If I were in your shoes, I would stay the course and see if the stall breaks and see what your doctor thinks about, if it's time to step up in dose. But I defer to whatever you and your doctor decide. I hope that helps. Next question. Should I stay on the lower dose than is recommended when I'm struggling with side effects? That is a really important question about when to stay at a dose and when to go up on a dose. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by lower dose than is recommended. Like, do you mean that your doctor is recommending that you go up and you're not sure if you should because you're struggling with side effects? I'm not totally clear. I have stayed at a lower dose due to my doctor's recommendation because my side effects were really not under control yet. This was earlier, around month 2 or 3 of my GLP-1 weight loss journey when I was on compounded semaglutide, and I had not lost weight or had maybe lost 1 pound in a month. And I thought, oh, my doctor's going to want me to go up because I'm not losing weight. And actually what she said was, you're not on top of the constipation. It's really important that we get that sorted out before we increase your dose in case going up in dose makes the constipation even worse. And I thought that was a great point. And so we stayed at that same dose for another month. I got on top of the constipation, and then I went up on dose. Turns out I didn't have more side effects once I went up in dose, but we didn't know that would happen. If your doctor's recommending you go up, but you're not comfortable with it because you're struggling with side effects, I would just tell my doctor, I don't know, I think I want to wait because I'm not on top of this side effect yet. It's something that the two of you have to work out, and I hope you have a good rapport with your doctor. The bottom line is just go at a pace that's right for your body and make that decision with your doctor. Also, if you are enjoying this and you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I post new videos every week and I don't want you to miss any. Stay in the loop on my GLP-1 weight loss journey. Whenever I get on YouTube, the very first thing I do is check comments so that I can read your comments. I love them all and I love answering your comments. Okay, next question. How do I know how much to eat and how many calories I actually need, particularly when I don't actually want to eat? I can relate to this one. Such a good question. I struggled with this myself in the first couple months of taking a GLP-1 medication. You may have heard about the kind of 1,200 calorie a day limit for weight loss. That number has been floating around for decades, and it's totally a myth. For most people, it's way too few calories. Unless you're very short and very sedentary, it's just not going to be enough energy to even keep up your like basic bodily functions, which means you'll be tired, you'll move less naturally because your body's trying to kind of preserve its energy, your metabolism will slow down, or you'll get really hungry and overeat to make up for feeling starving. That overeating part tends to happen less on GLP-1s because your appetite's so suppressed. So if you're eating, way too few calories, instead of getting hungry and overeating, what happens is you just lose a lot of lean muscle mass, and your metabolism keeps trying to compensate for the low calories by keeping you like more and more tired and moving less, so that you can survive on those fewer calories so your weight loss slows down. Yeah, so it's really important to know how to eat enough on a GLP-1, and then also how not to eat too much so that you can lose some weight. You want to be in a healthy calorie deficit. So when I started, I was all proud of myself because I was like, I'm going to eat more than 1,200 calories a day. And I set my calorie goal at 1,400 calories a day. And I was thinking, I'm so smart. And when my progress was slow, I was wondering, am I eating too much? Am I eating too little? And I just really wasn't sure. There are a few ways to figure out your own calorie needs: the resting metabolic rate, the total daily energy expenditure calculator online, and talking to a dietitian. Someone suggested that I go talk to a dietitian, and I was like, why have I never done that before? I'm not a food expert, but a dietitian is. So I made an appointment with my dietitian. It was covered by my health insurance. She was right in my primary care doctor's office. It was great. And she gave me an estimate of how many calories I should eat a day to maintain not just my bodily functions at rest, but also the activity that I was reporting, the workouts I'm doing. My job is very sedentary, but you still burn some calories, right? Just like taking a shower or cooking dinner. And so she factored kind of all that in, and she thought that I needed at least 1,700 calories a day to lose weight at a healthy rate. And less than that would really kind of slow things down. So I upped my calories. She had recommended that I do it kind of gradually, but I meant to do that and I just didn't. I just kind of like just suddenly started eating 1,700 calories, and I didn't lose any weight for a few weeks. And then my weight loss has been really steady ever since then. And I have plenty of energy. So I think I found that sweet spot for me. Interestingly, that estimate that she gave me, which she just kind of calculated on a notepad listening to me talk about my life, was totally in line with a very scientific way. Several weeks later, got my metabolism tested through an RMR. What does that stand for? Resting metabolic rate test. It's you breathe into a tube for 10 minutes, and the machine measures like your oxygen and your CO2 output. It gives you an estimate based on the 10 minutes of breathing, how many calories you burn in a 24-hour period just at rest. And my at-rest calorie target was like 1,400 and something calories. And when you add in my daily activity, you get to like the low 2,000s of calories to maintain my weight. And so 1,700 is a nice deficit to lose, around a pound a week. So my dietitian's estimate was spot on. So talk to a dietitian, get a resting metabolic rate test, RMR. Third idea is to do a TDEE calculator online. I'll put the link up here. You just put in like your age and your weight, and I forget what else, a few metrics, and it kind of spits out an estimate. So that's 3 different ways that you can figure out how many calories you need. Getting those calories when you don't feel like eating because you're on a GLP-1 medication and you're not hungry, that's a different story. On days when I'm not very hungry, which happens a lot on GLP-1 medication, I try to get in some really calorie-dense foods like nut butters or nuts or guacamole, any kind of avocado, because those are going to up my calories without me having to eat a lot. I like trail mix, and so if I'm not hungry and I want to get like a couple hundred calories, but I don't really feel like eating, you can eat like this much trail mix and get a couple hundred calories. So those are things that I do when I'm not particularly hungry. And then on days when I'm hungrier, usually like the day or two before it's time for my shot, it's easy for me to reach my calorie goal because I have more of an appetite. And so I can just eat 3 solid meals of about, 500 calories each, and then have some kind of little snack, and I'm good to go. I would say the most important thing is don't set your calories based on how hungry you feel on a GLP-1. These meds can suppress our appetites big time. You might feel fine eating 600 calories a day on a GLP-1, but that doesn't mean that it's healthy or sustainable or that you're doing your body any favors. And that's why kind of knowing what a healthy target is and doing some kind of tracking to make sure you're hitting it is important. When I started out, I was tracking like really religiously, like everything. And then I kind of got used to what it looks like to eat that amount. So I don't track so much now. I eat a lot of the same meals over and over again. So I kind of know without tracking everything that I'm getting enough calories. It's strange though, right? Having to focus on getting enough calories instead of not on Zepbound or Mounjaro or, Ozempic, whatever your GLP-1 medication is, when you've got an appetite and you're trying to not eat too much on a diet is what we're usually used to doing historically. And now we're trying to eat enough. So bottom line, don't just pull a number out of the air because you think it sounds like a weight loss number. Definitely don't pull 1,200 calories out of the air because, that's what you've heard floating around. And don't rely on your hunger signals on a GLP-1. Use tools like a dietitian, RMR testing, or the TDEE calculator online to set a realistic calorie goal and then pay attention to how your body responds. Okay, next question. How do I get enough protein? I really struggle to get enough. I hate cooking, so I'm finding it tough. This is such a common challenge, especially on a GLP-1, because like I was just talking about, your appetite's lower, and sometimes food just doesn't sound appealing, and spending time in the kitchen cooking just doesn't sound appealing. But getting enough protein is so important for preserving muscle mass, keeping you feeling full, and if you're strength training, supporting your recovery. I don't love spending hours in the kitchen. I try to be as efficient as I can when I'm really on my game and I do meal prep. Even that means 2 hours of meal prep. So let me share some easy ways that are helping me to meet my protein goals. A few things that help me: ready to eat protein, keeping Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, protein shakes, and protein bars on hand. I can throw some fruit on the cottage cheese and yogurt, and that's one of my go-to snacks. Protein shakes and protein bars, I try not to have more than one of those a day, either a shake or a bar, but they're just really easy to get an extra 20 to 30 grams of protein. Those are snacky ideas to supplement your protein. For meals, batch prepping some basic proteins has helped me. Sometimes by batch prepping, I mean buy a rotisserie chicken at the store. I literally have a rotisserie chicken in the fridge right now that my husband bought yesterday. But if I don't buy it pre-cooked, we'll just cook up a couple of pounds of ground turkey or chicken and then just keep it in the fridge, and I can throw it on a salad. I can throw it in a quesadilla, or sometimes if I am just really not feeling it, I'll just eat some protein with a steamer bag of veggies and call it good. And that way I'm not cooking some big meal every day. Another thing I do is just some easy add-ins. Edamame is really high in protein. I buy the already shelled frozen edamame, and it's really easy just to sprinkle into anything. Eat it as a snack, just with some salt on it. And then Parmesan cheese is crazy high in protein. 1 ounce, which is not that much, is 10 grams of protein. So if you're eating something like a salad and you want to boost the protein even more, grate an ounce of Parmesan cheese in it, and you have 10 extra grams. The whole topic of getting enough protein is so big that I'm actually working on a whole episode of what I eat in a day to get enough protein. And I'll walk you through what that looks like for me on a typical day at home with really low effort meals, because I am fundamentally a lazy cook. So stay tuned for that. But for now, I hope this gives you some ideas to kind of boost up your protein, even if you don't feel like cooking. Okay, next question. How do I incorporate more resistance and strength training into my weight loss journey? This is such a good question. My first thought about incorporating more strength training is it a knowledge issue where you honestly don't know where to start because you've never strength trained before? Or is it a motivation issue, you know what you should be doing, but you just can't figure out how to get yourself to do it? I've been in both of those situations, so I'm just going to speak to both of them. I'll talk about the knowledge part in a minute, But first, I'm going to talk about what's helped me with the mindset of doing regular strength training, even when I don't feel like it, even though I'm kind of a lazy bones. I'm never going to choose to go to the gym because I want to and I'm really motivated to do it. I shouldn't say never, because sometimes I get in a weird headspace where, I'm like, yeah, I want to go to the gym. And I just like ride that out for as long as it lasts, but it always ends. And then I don't want to go. But the thing is, I want to be consistent, not just going when I want to go. So here's how it's working for me right now. It doesn't work 100% of the time. I'll still blow off my workouts sometimes, but more often than not, I'm good. I feel like for health, especially after menopause, and especially on a GLP-1 weight loss journey where you're losing weight consistently over time and in a calorie deficit for a long time, you really want to preserve that lean muscle mass. So I really feel like strength training is a non-negotiable. When I got that mindset of like, weight training is just a non-negotiable that I do, it really helps me, because at the end of the day, when I don't feel like going, it's one of those things that it's like, but I just got to do it. There's no room for debate in my head of like, oh, do I? I don't feel like it. It's just like, it's one of those things, just like brushing my teeth. It's not 100% effective. In fact, recently I bribed myself to go to the gym by telling myself I'd buy myself a treat afterwards, and so I got a new lipstick after the gym. I posted a video about it. I'll put a link to it either up here or in the description. So sometimes I just have to bribe myself, and that was after I'd blown it off a couple times and I was in that danger mode of like not becoming a habit. So that bribe kind of helped me keep the momentum, and then I was able to like get back into it without bribing. So whatever tricks to keep yourself consistent, I also find helpful. And stick with me, because it might sound a little bit like, where is she going with this? What is she talking about? So my husband and I are messy in different ways. And one of the things he really likes is to have the kitchen sink clean and no dishes in it at the end of the night. And that's one of the things I don't really care about that much. There's other things he does, like have piles of stuff places, and that'll bug me. And when I leave dishes in the sink, that bugs him. So I've taken it upon myself to really try to not leave my dishes in the sink at the end of the night. Even when he's out of town, I try to do that, because one of the reasons he values it is because if you don't leave dirty dishes around, there's less chance of bugs. And we live in the South where like roaches are a thing. So it's not just because he doesn't like the sight of the dishes, but it's a way to prevent pests. So even when he's out of town, I try really hard to keep dirty dishes out of the sink. Am I doing that because I value a clean sink? No, not really. It doesn't bother me that much. If there's dirty dishes in the sink, I'm always like, yeah, I'll do them tomorrow, no big deal. But I value my husband, and this is such a little thing I can do that reduces the friction between us, and that makes him happy when he sees that I've not left dirty dishes in the sink. And so that's like a values-based decision for me to do something that I don't really want to do, but I'm doing it anyway because there's some bigger purpose. So doing strength training as a values-based decision, think about, do you want to maintain your bone mass so that if you fall when you're older, you're less likely to fracture a bone? Do you want to have more muscle mass so that you're less likely to fall and you're stronger and you are more able to function in daily life? So that's how I deal with the mindset part of doing it consistently. But what is it? That's coming next. That's what do you do if you've really never done any strength training or resistance training. I am not a personal trainer. I'm not an expert in this, but I will tell you what has worked for me. If you're really starting out at ground zero, get clearance from your doctor that you're okay to exercise, and work with a professional. Work with a personal trainer. Even one session is better than none. You can learn a lot in one session. If that's not viable for you, YouTube is filled with lots of very qualified fitness professionals who have beginner videos that you can watch. I'm just a regular person who exercises. I first started weight training in college. I was about 20, and I've been doing it pretty consistently since then. So here's some things that I've learned. Start really small. Body weight exercises are perfect. You don't need weights or bands or barbells or anything. Doing squats, push-ups on your knees, planks, those kinds of things. If you just did 5 minutes of that a day, you will feel it. If you have not been doing any resistance training and you just do some squats, push-ups, and planks 5 minutes a day, you will become stronger. And that's going to help build a base that you're going to build upon. Once you're consistent with something, just using your body weight, you can increase either the intensity, the duration, or the frequency of what you're doing. So make it heavier, like you start holding weights when you're doing squats, or if it was 5 minutes, make it 10 minutes, or if you're doing it twice a week, make it 3 times a week. And finally, I would tell you, rest. Muscles don't grow when you're working them, they grow when they're resting. The same way that like babies grow when they sleep. Have you ever put a baby down in pajamas that fit them, and then when they woke up, you swear they're like popping out of the pajamas? It's because they grow when they sleep. Muscles recover and get stronger when they're resting. So you can't work a muscle really hard every single day. It won't have time to recover. I usually work a muscle group twice a week. If you do it every other day, I think that's the most I would do it. But again, I'm not a fitness professional, so don't take that as gospel. But if I were starting out with no knowledge about how to weight train, I would hire a trainer. If I couldn't hire a trainer, I would get on YouTube. I would find someone who teaches beginners, and I would follow what a certified trainer on YouTube did. And either of those things, talk to your doctor first and get clearance. Always talk to your doctor first. Okay, next question. How did you find the Smooth Moves tea for your constipation? Ooh, this is a fun one. I found Smooth Moves tea very effective in getting things moving, but I don't find it to be a sustainable, like long-term solution to constipation. It's more like when you really want to treat the symptom and just get unconstipated, Smooth Moves tea is my go-to. The active ingredient is senna, which you can get in other forms, like you can get over-the-counter senna tablets. So it's not like there's anything magic about the tea. It's just that it has senna in it, and I like how it tastes. You can get the regular flavor, or they have one with peppermint added, and that's the one I like because it tastes more minty. The other one tastes fine. It's just a little bit more medicinal. I think I have them both in my pantry right now. When I've been really backed up, I'll have 1 cup of that tea at night, and the next morning and like the first half of the day, I will go to the bathroom. In fact, I don't have a cup of tea at night if I know that I have to be like out and about that day, because it's a stimulant laxative, senna is. And so there can be some urgency involved. So don't drink this tea and just think that you can have like, a busy day where you might not be near a toilet the next day. Make sure that you're near a toilet. Depending on how backed up I was, it affected how dramatic the results were, but I've never had it not work. The relief of just like getting unconstipated is wonderful, and that's why I appreciate having this as one of the tools for dealing with constipation. It solves the immediate problem of being really constipated, and it's important to keep things moving, but it doesn't prevent it from happening again. It's just not something that I want to rely on too often, but when you need it, you need it. To play defense more than offense, I found that incorporating things that draw more water into your colon, like Miralax, was helpful. And then for me, Mag07 was the supplement that when I take it pretty regularly, it keeps me regular. That was my regime when I was on semaglutide that finally got me on top of that side effect, because I was very constipated on semaglutide. I don't need any of that anymore now that I'm on Zepbound, because I'm just not constipated. Okay, next question. Did GLP-1 give you any other benefits specifically related to menopause symptoms? My hot flashes seem less in intensity and frequency. Nice. Not sure if it's a drug effect or just naturally happening, but I'll take it. Yeah, take it. I can't really speak to this because all the hot flashes and night sweats and all of those symptoms that I had, it was all in my 40s before I actually officially menopaused. My last period was at about age 52 or 53, and I'm 56 now. I haven't really had any of those like hot flash symptoms, but I did a little bit of research for you. And right now, GLP-1s haven't officially been studied or approved for menopause symptoms, but if you're noticing fewer hot flashes and night sweats, you're not alone. Other women have reported that too. And it could be something specific to the medication, or it could be because Weight loss itself can reduce hot flashes. Better blood sugar regulation means steadier hormones in general. And also GLP-1s reduce inflammation and the kind of stress load that your body's carrying. And so when you have lower markers of inflammation, it can play a role in symptom relief. So it seems like there's not like solid clinical evidence that this is a thing, but it kind of looks like it's a thing. And if your hot flashes have improved on a GLP-1, that's great. That's a great bonus. Moving on to the next question. Traveling with meds, did you pack it in hand luggage and did you declare it at security? Okay, good news. I have found that traveling with GLP-1 meds is very easy. Since I started a GLP-1 medication 31 weeks ago, I've been abroad 3 times and I've flown domestically at least 3 times. And all those times I flew with a Ziploc baggie of my medication vials and syringes and alcohol pads with the cardboard side of the medication box that had the prescription on it also in the baggie. But no one has looked at it. I just put it right through the scanner in my carry-on, and it's never been like questioned or scrutinized or anything. I didn't refrigerate my medications. Once they're out of the refrigerator, they're fine for like 28 days, and the longest I was gone was 3 weeks. So, I just kept them at room temperature. I knew they weren't going to get freezing cold or super hot because they're not supposed to be, either of those temperatures. But I knew I'd be, in a mild temperature regulated hotel room or Airbnb. And I never declared it as security. I just kind of, had it in my bag and it sailed right through. That doesn't mean that it's a guarantee that that will happen for you too. And definitely tell me in the comments if you've had any issues traveling with your GLP-1. I know if you're really wanting to keep it chilled that there are kits that you can get. I'll find one that a friend of mine uses and I'll link to it. I don't have one and I don't use one. I'm just kind of like, whatever, room temperature, yay. But I have a friend who I traveled to Ireland with and she wanted to keep hers chilled. She got it on Amazon or something. I'll ask her. Okay, next question. I'm confused about milligrams versus units. Yes. My dosage is listed as units, so I'm always unsure what other people are injecting for a dose. Okay, you are not alone. This is a very common confusion. I'll share in a minute how I jacked up my dose one week because of this confusion. But here's the deal. Milligrams measure the amount of medication. So when you hear people say they're on 0.5 milligrams or 1 milligram, they're talking about the actual drug dose. Units measures the volume of liquid being injected from the pen or the syringe. Different pens and formulations can be set up differently so that units can be any dose. 10 units on one pen doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the same amount of medication as 10 units on another pen or vial for that matter. That's why comparing units across people isn't reliable. 2 people saying 10 units could be talking about totally different doses. So if you are curious about what other people are taking for a dose, communicate in milligrams. You could be taking 5 milligrams, someone else could be taking 5 milligrams, but you could be injecting 10 units and they could be injecting 50 units because it's just the liquid, right? It's still 10 milligrams of the actual medication. So I just ignore what other people's units are. The only important unit you need to pay attention to is your unit. Read the directions for how many units you are going to inject. Follow the prescription on your pen or on your vial, which should list the milligram dose and the units. If you're ever unsure, ask your pharmacist, ask your doctor, ask them to clarify exactly how many units you're going to inject from the pen or pull into the syringe to get the dose that you're prescribed. And they can walk you through it with your specific medication. My personal story, when I increased my Zepbound dose from 2.5 to 5, the units changed. When I was taking 0.25 of Zepbound, the directions were to give 30 units. And then when I increased to 0.5 milligrams of Zepbound, I got my vials in the mail. I'm using Lilly Direct, so it's not a pen, it's still vials, and I, load a syringe. And I didn't look at the directions. So I don't know. I just, whatever. I didn't look at the directions and I injected the same amount of units, 30. Then afterwards, I looked at the directions and realized that it said to inject 50 units, which is like the whole dang syringe. But luckily, it was like, I think it was about a half hour later, and I was able to like get the other 20 units and inject it. It was all fine. But that can happen. I get it. It's confusing. And if you're confused at all about what dose to give yourself, talk to your doctor or pharmacist. If you're wondering what other people are talking about when they're mentioning units that sound really strange to you, just don't worry about units. Milligrams is the language that you can talk to compare your dose to other people's dose. Units are kind of all over the place. Next question. How did you get the courage to start? Was there just a point you hit rock bottom and just went for it? There was kind of a rock bottom. Not exactly rock bottom, but kind of a like, I give up. I'll try the med. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Before that moment, I was resistant to trying the med because I really thought I could lose the weight on my own. After a lifetime of managing my weight on my own through lifestyle modification, I just kept thinking, like, it worked before, it'll work now. And I've always lived like a pretty healthy lifestyle, despite my love of food and slothing around. I kept myself, active and interested in healthy food. But in perimenopause in my 40s, it became harder to manage my weight and I became overweight. But I was able to manage it somewhat. Like, it was harder and it was slower to lose weight. But I sort of vacillated between like being a little overweight and being in a normal weight range. And I was still healthy. All my health markers were good. My doctors weren't worried. So I just didn't really worry about it too much. And then after menopause, about 3 years ago, things really changed. And I was doing the same lifestyle things of like eating right and moving my body, but the scale just kept creeping up and up. And it's like I was accidentally gaslighting myself for a few years because I just kept thinking, oh, I'm not trying hard enough. Oh, clearly I'm overeating. And none of those things actually in retrospect were true. It's just that my body was off in some metabolic way that it just kept gaining weight at a slow pace to the point that I became obese for the first time in my life. But I was still thinking like, oh, I'm not trying hard enough. So now we get to the point where I hit my sort of, I give up. GLP-1 medications were on my radar and I knew people who were using them and they were working, and I kept thinking, that's not for me. I don't need that. Well, at the beginning of this year, I'm recording this in August of 2025. So at the beginning of 2025, I thought, I haven't been trying hard enough. I'm really going to buckle down. And I did 4 weeks of Weight Watchers. It kind of started at the end of December, but anyway. By late January, I had done 4 weeks of Weight Watchers and just followed it to a T, eaten right, exercised, and I lost 0 pounds. 0. And that was my moment when I just was like, I give up. Something's wrong. So it wasn't so much courage to try the medication as like surrendering to the idea that I can't do this on my own. I had a little bit of fear of giving myself a shot, getting to that point of just feeling like, I don't know what else to do. I can't think of any other options. I was willing to face the fear of giving myself a shot. It turns out it was like the least difficult thing. If I had known how painless and easy it was, like I wouldn't have given a moment of worry to it. And besides fear of the needle, I had just kind of a fear of, taking an unknown medication, unknown to me. But I just felt like if I didn't try something else, I just felt like I was destined to keep like creeping up in weight. And I was already now obese by about 10 or 11 pounds. So it was like maybe more desperation than courage that got me to start it. And when I took the GLP-1, I immediately started losing weight. Not quickly, but slowly and steadily. Next question. How do we know when we have reached our body's best weight? Oh, I wish I knew, but I'll tell you my thoughts on it. Okay, I just read the entirety of this person's question. They've plateaued at 10 pounds above their goal weight, and their doctors told them that they're healthy where they are, but they'd like to lose 10 more pounds. So there's a lot of information I don't have here, right? I would wonder, how are your health indicators? Your blood sugar, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your visceral fat. If those are all good and your doctor's telling you that you're good there, you might be at a perfectly healthy weight for you in terms of health. And you can set other goals besides weight loss, like changing your body composition, increasing your muscle mass, things like that. I don't know. There's enough I don't know about you specifically. But in general, I'm not exactly sure how to determine goal weight. I don't know exactly what my goal weight is. It's somewhere in the 160s, I think. I'm 5'9". I feel really healthy right now. My blood pressure is normal. My blood sugar is normal. Those things were not looking good 31 weeks ago when I started the GLP-1. My cholesterol's still high, but it's decreasing over time, so I think I'll get it down to the normal range eventually. And I'm still overweight, but that's decreasing over time. So when I reach a place where my visceral fat isn't high and my cholesterol's in a normal range, like, to me, that's all I want. And I'm suspecting that it'll be in the 160s. But I don't know. Real talk moment. This is hard to talk about, but I think I have to. Maybe be honest with yourself about vanity goal weight versus healthy goal weight. It's hard to admit this, but there is a part of me that thinks weighing 145 pounds would be a great goal weight because that's what I weighed back like in my early 20s when I was in college. In college, my wise mind knows this isn't healthy or realistic, but I sympathize with that little voice in my head that's a part of me that is influenced by diet culture and that cult of being really thin. And that voice in me exists. She's not driving the bus, but she is a passenger on the bus. So I do from time to time think, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great if I could weigh 145? But then I'm like, no, it really wouldn't be great. It would not be healthy. So yeah, just kind of think about what your reasons are for having a certain goal weight. It's hard for me to justify a goal weight for myself that isn't based in like what we know about healthy weight. Even if I've got the chatter up here about, being thin or being a certain size, like to me, that's all just like rubbish chatter. I'm sorry. I don't mean to criticize those parts of myself, but it's kind of rubbish. Okay, moving to the next question. When in your journey did you start noticing indications that the medication was starting to work, like reduced food noise and reduced appetite? It's different for everyone. In my journey, the first day after my shot, I think I wasn't as hungry, but what I definitely noticed was when I ate, I got full really fast. This physical, like, feeling of fullness in my stomach. And I'm sure that was just my stomach was emptying slower. And so I filled up really fast. I just felt like I'd eaten a lot when I hadn't eaten much. So within that first day or two, it was harder to eat full meals because of that full feeling. I was also tracking my calories really carefully then, and I did not decrease my calories that much. You know how I'd been doing Weight Watchers for 4 weeks before I started the medication? And I figured out that after I started the medication and like I couldn't eat as much in one sitting, my daily caloric intake only went down by about 100 calories a day. So that weight loss that I had initially, I was like, I don't think I can attribute it to 100-calorie decrease in my food. There was something else metabolically going on. I was having to like eat more frequently to get enough food. Food noise is a little harder for me to remember. It took looking back after a week or two for me to realize like, oh, I'm hardly thinking about food at all. And I hadn't heard the term food noise until I started taking a GLP-1 medication. But once I heard about it, I was like, oh my God, I've had food noise my whole life. I just didn't know that I was having it. So I knew something was happening with the food noise within the first week or two. But like I said, everyone's different. So remember, if you don't notice something right away, it doesn't mean that anything's wrong. For many people, the starter dose really is just the starter dose to get your body used to the medication. And the therapeutic effects aren't going to kick in until you titrate up to a higher dose. That just happens for a lot of people. So again, like I would say with all of the stuff I've been talking about today, talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor about all this stuff. If you're listening to my journey and thinking that something's wrong because your experience is different, please don't. Everyone's experience is really unique. Just because my experience looks one way doesn't mean yours is wrong. It just means it's yours. Look for my What I Eat in a Day to Get Enough Protein video next week. And in the meantime, if you're curious about what I eat in a day, check out this video. If you're more interested in the kind of exercise I've been doing, look at this one. See you next time.